Yeah. I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. Yeah. I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. Yeah. React if you have to. Yeah.
Don't know the time, yeah. Just know that I'm, one of a kind, What's on your mind, What hard to find, Beautiful mind, Still in my prime, Just know that I'm here.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Episode 6. Fuck. Episode 6 is a special one. I'm excited today. We've been talking about guests. We've been blaring that horn, and I have a whole list of people that I want to get on this podcast. That Jeff and I want to get on this podcast, and I had some anxiety about who was going to be the first guest because I wanted the first guest to be impactful and to be, lead off strong, right?
Yeah.
So we finally have nailed down our first guest, and he's sitting across the table from us. And he's a guy that I grew up with, went to high school with, lived in Belleville with, and somebody that I look up to quite a bit, and somebody that I call just a fucking trailblazer. And without further ado, my good friend, brother, Nick.
Hey, thank you, Chris.
Thanks for being
that.
here.
I appreciate the kind words. It's good to be here. It's an honor as your first guest.
It's important, man, and I know the lengths of which you traveled just to be here is an honor, and it gives me a little anxiety. We're gonna fuck this up. We can't.
Well, you're doing some trailblazing right now, with what you're doing, helping a lot of people, and I respect it, and I want to be a part of it. So here we are.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm following your lead. I mean it. Back when I was active in my alcoholism, and a lot of people say that the internet and social media is mankind's greatest invention, but also mankind's fucking toilet bowl.
Yep.
But while I was on the couch drinking my life away, I was watching what Nick was doing, and coming from a gutter or where you came from to where you're at now, and helping people that I know tangibly, firsthand, directly in the trenches. You have a long list of people that we both know and love that you've taken in and helped and gotten sober. So I got to watch that while I was deep in the fucking bottle, and it's things like that helped me get to where I'm at, not just now, but really the main hump, right, of checking into rehab and fixing my shit, and knowing that it was possible and knowing that there was hope. So not to give you too much of a blowjob here on the podcast, but
hey, man, it's just about giving back. When you get sober, that's kind of, clean house and help others. So that's part of it, and that helps me when I help other people.
Sure.
So I'm blessed today that that's what I actually get to do for a living now. Is help other people, and it's a beautiful thing, because you said I'm from the trenches. I'm not necessarily from the trenches. I mean, I guess Belleville could be the trenches. But I had a good family. I grew up with you. We were in high school and came from a middle class family. I think that my parents overall, did a good job. There was some areas looking back, maybe they could have done a little bit differently, but overall, I made some bad decisions. I put myself in the trenches. And it was a cycle over a long period of time. I've listened to all your podcasts before, and you were talking about drinking, and there's kind of this evolution that happens and brings you to this despair.
Mm-hmm.
And
sure.
that was the case with me. It was all fun and games at one point.
Yeah.
You know, we were partying in high school, even college days. I mean, those are some of the best years of my life. But there came a point where I wasn't having fun anymore.
The light went out.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for our generation, even being, when I reflect back now on my younger days, I can remember high school and literally getting Vicodin and buying it at the flagpole at East, you know? And
Yeah.
I used to play football. I was a big high school football player, started my sophomore year, and I ended up having surgery on my shoulder. And I broke my ankle the same year. So my mom was a
that.
nurse.
Right.
So I, had all these pills, and I'd be taking them all the time. And I was a partier as it was.
Sure.
You know, I loved to party in high school, so I started taking the pills, and over time that graduated, and I had my first OxyContin at East. I can remember exactly where I got it at. I remember where I did it, and I fell in love after that.
Yeah.
And that brought me down a dark, dark path. But we didn't even know. I had no clue, and I know the people around me, that they were even physically addictive. I had no idea. No idea. I remember in high school or in college, I got really sick, and I was buying some pills. I had somebody come over, and he knocked on my door. I said, "Oh man, I've been feeling terrible. Been feeling so bad." He's like, "It's the pills, right?" I said, No way. I got the flu or something, And sure enough, I didn't take one for 48 hours. I'm like, let me try a couple of those. Popped a couple, and all of a sudden I was great. Back on my feet, ready to rock. And that's when I
crazy, man.
had that moment where I knew it was an issue. I was, too deep at that point.
Sure. I remember my first, and I think I've told this story. Well, maybe I haven't on the podcast. I was in college, and I was sicker than a dog, and I didn't drink for 2 days. 2, maybe it was even 3. No, it's probably only 2, because hot toddies were my key when I could actually hold things down, right? And I remember I was talking on the phone with my girlfriend at the time, and I was just being a fucking crabby asshole with her, and she's like, "When the last time you had a drink?" I go, "Fuck, I haven't had a drink in 2 or 3 days." And she goes, "Bingo." And that's when I knew. So, right, it was that light bulb. But, right, I wasn't going to fucking turn around. I just poured a drink. Back to being a goofy, funny prick that I am, right? That's crazy, Nick. So when you started on your, with the OxyContin, talk about that a little bit. I was in rehab with heroin addicts and opioid addicts. Thank God it wasn't my vice, but mine was more the alcohol and the cocaine. And but talk about the pills and how it transforms into something worse, if you can.
Well, I was I had a large habit in college of OxyContin, and it was cheaper at that point. And to show you how strong the grips of addiction are, I had a good friend of mine that we were home on Christmas break, and we just got together as one good friend, doing some lines together, doing some pills, and we ran out, and we decided that we were going to go get some more. So we hopped in his car, went to my college town at the time. It was
How far away?
2 hours,
Yeah.
hour and a half.
But still, 2 hours in the car.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was nothing. So we went there though, and we bought some, and we partied that night. And I did him under the table, and unfortunately, I found him that next morning, passed away in my college apartment, and that was a life-changing event for me. And I can't tell you the amount of pain and everything that it caused so many people around me and myself. But I had this moment where I was like, I am never doing this again. And I didn't understand addiction. Nobody around me did at the time. My parents, when they picked me up, they said, "What's going on? Do you have a problem?"
Right.
I said, "Yeah, I have a problem." And I went to that funeral. His name was Kurt, and I can remember going back and hugging his family, hugging his brother, his mother, his father. And I made a promise on that day that I was never going to touch it again. And I meant that.
Sure.
I meant that. But I went and got some Suboxone here at a local doctor. It was the time where that just came out. It was brand new. And I got off smoking weed in my basement and taking some Suboxone, got completely off pain pills just in time to head right back to college, and get right back in that party life. But I wasn't going to stop drinking or other things. I was just going to stop the pills. You know? And that lasted for a while, about a year and a half. And after college, I went back home, and all my friends that didn't go to college or were back home, they were all hooked before I left, they'd all graduated to heroin. So when I got back, there was this point in time to where OxyContin used to be real cheap. And what happened is the price had significantly greater. So something that was a habit for you that maybe cost $40 a day would then cost, $80, $100, $200 a day habit was nothing. So here's, people around me when I've already been hooked. And this happens over an 8-10 year period. I go back and I see my buddy sitting there getting high, and I would never touch heroin. That's these junkies and terrible thoughts in my head. That's what I kind of thought at the time of these people, and sure enough, he was getting high off $10 and nodding out. So I decided that I was going to sniff it, and that brought me down that path to where it was somewhat acceptable just for that one time. Well, then that next day, then just one more time, then one more time. So it led me down a path to where I started again with some pills, with some Suboxone, trying it that one time when I promised that, and then it led me down. Once I got to heroin, all bets were off. I was young, I was in my 20s, I was living for the moment. I knew that it was an issue, but I wasn't, it wasn't today that I was going to say, I'd stop a bit, I'd grow out of this. It was a phase, and that never happened. It brought me to a point to where I wrecked everything around me. I mean, I stole from my family. I sold everything I had. My sister wouldn't talk to me. She just had a baby at the time. I mean, it took my soul. And I tried getting sober. Go ahead.
You just said something that took your soul. I think that hits you meet people, and you've met with, and we'll get to where you're at now. We don't want to stay too much, we're gonna bring this to where you're at now and how you're helping so many people. But when you say it stole your soul, I see so many people, like you said, will fucking rob their mother, will steal money from their fucking grandma. People that you would never think that you would steal from or rob in your younger years, and you would, if you heard of a story of a guy or somebody doing that to, you would almost want to beat the shit out of them. Like, when that's what this shit does to you. Yeah. And that's I loved how you put that it steals your fucking soul to do things so against your moral, the construction of you, like the DNA that makes up your morality. It robs you of that, this death grip of addiction. And I'm gonna let you continue. I just, that makes so much sense to me. That's exactly what it does, man. And God, that's just powerful.
Yeah, it just brings you to places that you'd never thought you'd be, or places you never thought you'd go to. And I can't even describe it if you've never went through it. It's just something that takes over. You have no stop sign, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing in your head that's saying stop. You just go. Like, that's what matters most over everything else. And that's why, it's a choice, is my opinion at first. And, you do make that choice. But once you get into that grips of addiction, it becomes a disease of your mind, of your brain. And you have no control over that. You have to put that first. If you don't have it, you're deathly sick. You can't move on. At the time, you just think that you have to have that, to function, which I found out, quickly after that, after bringing my life to those, I was homeless I tried getting sober a couple times. I went to treatment. I got back out. I thought I could just drink. It didn't work out. So I had to give it a stab a couple of times and try to do things my way, right. Which never works out. And this last time, I went to Florida for treatment, and I got out and I did the same thing. I found South Florida, right, Miami. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I'm ready to stop, but I got to go to these pool parties. I got to check out, these EDC. I got to go to Ultra. And so, but just drank, and led me to the same spot. But it got so bad at the end that I was just so sick and tired of being sick and tired that I was willing to do whatever it took at that point. You know, I was hotel hopping in these little shitty $30 motels, you know, for over years, supporting my habit, and I was IV using at the time. And, you know, there was a couple of moments that I had this recollection, these moments they call a moment of clarity, where I'm like, look where I'm fucking at. I'm so much better than this. This is not the person that I am. And I was done. You know, there's a couple of key moments where I'm like, I got to do this. So, and I did. And I went off, and thank God for my family. They helped me the last time get some help. They saw my willingness there, and I went into a treatment center and got out, and I went to a local halfway house. That's what I did. I didn't have shit. Didn't have a pot to piss in. Went to a halfway house. And if you would have told me to sit in the corner and stand on my head and eat dog shit, and that would have got me clean or sober, I would have done it, because that's just where I was at. But those times and working on myself, you know, I personally got sober through the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous.
Okay.
There's many ways to get sober. I mean, Chris, you did it completely different than I did it. I've never even seen anything like it. This man goes back to Fridays, and he's got napkins in his back that he for drinks that people. I would never recommend that to anybody, but you did it, man. You did it.
I made a deal with God. I when I was in rehab and I had that moment. How the fuck did it get to this moment? And I said to him, I said, I know I'm surrounded by people that need help. They need somebody to reach their hand over to them, and I'm not gonna get them if I can't go back to the places where I grew up and as the taverns and places like that. So, and I've had people, there's been a small percentage of people that have kind of addict shamed me, like, he's not really a fucking alcoholic, like, if he can do that. It was an elderly guy that told a friend that he's no fucking alcoholic if he can go back to the bar. And to each their own. I mean, this guy doesn't know me from Adam, but I can't let that shit stop what I'm doing.
People have opinions.
Yeah, you're right. Opinions are like liberals. Everybody's got one. I dropped it. I said it again.
I thought we weren't talking about that today. Come on.
Nick, one thing you hit that I thought of while you were talking too is a friend of ours, a mutual friend who's also sober now, told me one time, like you said, like, he was at a point where he'd never be one of those junkies. Never one of those. Fucking hates needles. Can't even get a shot at a doctor's office. But somehow, some way, he found himself fucking pulling a rubber band tight and finding veins and sticking needles into to shoot these drugs in. And that's what it.
Yeah, and I hate that word too, because we always use that, you know, with junkie or even addict, and it's like, if you see what I see on a daily basis, because what do you think of when you think of drug addiction? If you could picture one person in your mind right now, what that person looks like, what do you think of? Most people think of some homeless guy or somebody that doesn't have their shit together, or, you know, you think of this low life, and it's just not true. Man, we treat doctors, lawyers, attorneys, I don't care who you are, how much money you have, the family that you come from, none of that matters. If it gets its grips on you, you're done. And we see it every day. Yeah. But that's what you see, or that's what the public sees, because those are the people that don't have any money that are front and center. You know, somebody with money, they're drying out on a yacht in Cabo somewhere, trying to, you know, they can hide it, they can pay for the best. You just don't see it, you know, as much. Yeah. It's not put in our face, but
no, and even the folks, like, it's such a good point that your mental image, those motherfuckers are human beings too, man, and they come from. I mean, they come from who knows where and what challenges they've faced. So, and now seeing it on my end, you're right. It's that it's just it's another.
Well, most
one of
those people started. If you ever take the time to, you know, we do a lot of great work with our sister nonprofit here. It's called Mo Network, and some amazing guys around it. They're actually partners at treatment center here in St. Louis. Robert Riley and Chad Sabora. They're big in. They've changed a lot of legislation in this area, but they have an outreach center. downtown that
Sure.
I've helped support for years. If you ever take the time to talk to those individuals, they came from exactly where we're at. Most of them,
Yeah.
they've lost their families. They've had good jobs. They've done, and they get to this point to where, they lose hope. People just lose hope. And just recently, there's been a lot more resources out there for people to tap into. And the work that they do there is incredible. And the point I'm trying to make is that those same people, were once us.
Yeah.
And this disease does not discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are.
It's a very good point. We met, I think the first time I met you, Nick, was we used to go on the first day of high school. It would be like a half day. And we'd go to Mazzio's Pizza Buffet afterwards and get stoned to the bone and just do some damage. Let the dog out, right? Let the big dog out of the cage. And then we'd go over to our mutual friend's house that we call the Wolf Branch neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't want to drop any names. His name started with an A.
Okay.
Do you remember? He'd always have a party after the first day of high school, and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
would all. It was awesome. And I remember the first time I met you and another friend because we were sophomores, you guys were freshmen, and that's how we kicked off our high school careers, Jeff. And
A
lot of our friends didn't go down the paths that we did, but you don't have to be. What I've learned is you don't have to have a addiction issue, especially with alcohol, as because you see all the addictions. I mean, you see the opioid. We know that's a fucking crisis right now. That's DEFCON 3 or 4 on the opioid heroin addiction. But you deal with alcoholics and people fucking with benzos, right? I mean, there's all kinds of them out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course. There's alcohol and benzos are very serious because those are the only 2 drugs you can die from. But let's look at this as a whole. So many people saying,
let me stop you. What do you mean by that? The only 2 drugs you can...
The only 2 drugs, like when we're in the detox process,
okay. That's
we
right.
really have to watch out if
Gotcha.
those are in your background because they can cause seizures. I mean, they are nasty,
Wow.
nasty drugs to where...
So the
you really-
withdrawal can kill you.
Yes, the withdrawal.
Okay,
the
yeah,
withdrawal.
that's what I
Sorry.
was told.
All of them can kill you.
Well, right,
the
right.
withdrawal process on them can kill you. But I think that yes, we have an epidemic with opioids and these other epidemics, but overall, we don't have an addiction epidemic. We have a loneliness epidemic in this country.
Bingo.
And that's what it comes down to. Everybody's hurting. So the opposite of addiction is connection, right?
I like that.
And we're all yearning for some type of connection. And for me, when I'm sitting in a hotel room loaning out, like I don't have anybody, people cut me off, and that's not their fault, that's my fault. But I'm finding happiness in a pill form, or you're finding it in a bottle, and that's over time that becomes our go-to, right? It doesn't matter what's happening in your day, it doesn't matter what's going on in life, that right there, that's a solution.
That's your friend.
That's going to make you feel nice and warm inside. It's going to take all that pain away, and you combine that with all those the withdrawal aspects, everything else, it just takes over. But ultimately, addiction is a form of mental health. We're seeing a huge increase in mental health right now with individuals. But I think that's ultimately what it boils down to, is having a loneliness epidemic.
I amen to that, man. I couldn't agree more. Hey, one thing I want to make sure we talk about is after you got sober, you got clean, and talk us through from that point to where you're at now, because then something happened in your life where you decided to take the fuck off, and like you said earlier, serve other fucking people and give and help people.
After I got out of treatment in Florida, I wanted to go to a smaller town. I wanted to go to a sober living, little family-owned place, which I went to, concentrate on myself, focus on myself. And I did that. And about 9 months in, I thought to myself, I started managing this house. And I had nothing at this time. And I'm like, you know what? I can do this better. I can do this, what they're doing right here. So I went back, and at just about a year, I convinced my grandfather at the time, up and down, to help support me. And I got a $6,000 loan to start up my first recovery house. I got all the furniture donated, or got it from the local Goodwill or free off Craigslist. I made it work, first, last security. And I lived on a mattress on the floor of this sober living house. And I was so tied into that community that everybody was flocking to kind of stay there. We ran a really good house, and I turned that 1 into 4 in a period of maybe 6 months. And at the time, I was actually riding a purple 10-speed around with no brakes on it. That's what I was riding around down the middle of Port St. Lucie Boulevard in Florida. And I remember I was big into working out, right? I couldn't change. I had no money. I had nothing. But one thing I could change is what I eat, my physical appearance. So we're always getting better. I'm still a sick fuck. I always got to work on myself and make sure I'm putting myself in check. But at the time, if I couldn't fix what's on the inside, I'd at least have an appearance. So I was really big into working
pictures.
out.
You get a fucking six-pack and shit. It pissed me off a little bit.
So, and that's also before kids and wife and everything else. But so the point is, I was riding my bike to the gym every day. One of the guys was in the house as a personal trainer.
Purple 10-speed. Let's not
Purple
forget
10-speed, rolling down a hill, right? And he was in front of me. He goes through this crosswalk, and then I'm right behind him. And I see this lady. She looks to the side and looks at him go through the crosswalk. I have no brakes. I'm going down this hill. She doesn't look back. I'm like, oh, shit. Here, she slams on the, she hits the gas, just bashes me. I fly off this bike, Spider-Man or hood, roll into the middle of the highway on Port St. Lucie Boulevard, smashes my bike. This was my life. I'm like, fuck, you see me now? She's like, I didn't see you. You see me now? I threw the bike. I was so upset. I mangled my whole leg and had road rash all over me. And I ended up going to the hospital. And the truth of the matter is I had some medical bills and was banged up from that. And my mom's boyfriend at the time was a personal injury attorney. And he said, Nick, just give me the case. And I ended up getting like a $25,000 settlement at that time for that. And I took that money and started up my first outpatient center. And to service, because in that area, a lot of people were leaving treatment and they didn't have a doctor, they didn't have an outpatient to go through, there wasn't proper medication management for these people. And anybody with mental illness, like, you have to treat the mental illness first before you can even treat the addiction. And that was just a market that wasn't being served. So we opened up that, and I ended up finding another guy that was in the community that really didn't know what he was doing. He was an ex-banker, and he had this two beautiful properties on the water, and he started up a treatment center. It's called Water's Edge, and he had like 3 people in the door, couldn't really make it work, didn't have any electronic medical records, just really was kind of lost. And my partner and I at the time went to him. We said, let's do a merger. We can make this work. You need us. And we made that happen. And we turned that eventually into 80 beds of partial hospitalization, 110 beds of aftercare. And I ended up, we kind of, went our separate ways after that. But, at that time, I wanted to go full throttle. I wanted to help people. I knew my life couldn't stay where it was at. I had to move forward no matter what. I mean, what did I have to lose? I was like, $150,000 in debt. I had a 403 credit score at the time. Like, what am I going to lose some more money? Like, get in line, tack it on, I have nothing. So
can't get blood from a turnip.
Yeah. So I just pushed. I was just hungry. And we ended up kind of parting ways. Let's put it a nice way, we just didn't have the same views of where the company was going, and we split off. I sold, my company down in Florida.
And how many years of sobriety do you have on your belt at this point?
January 8th, 2012. So
awesome.
8 years. It's actually just recent.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So one thing to rewind real quick, when the first thing that hit my mind, that I crossed my mind when you said you got hit by that car was, oh fuck, they're gonna stick him in a hospital and start shooting him up with pain meds, man.
Well, that wasn't happening at that time. I was. At that point, I was so ready for my life to change that if somebody would have put drugs in front, I would have probably broke their nose right then and there because I took it so seriously.
Right.
And I still do, but
Yeah.
especially at that point, this is life or death. Listen, man, I'm living on a mattress on the floor. My whole family won't talk to me. I don't got shit. You bring that over here, that's going to crush my life. And we're going to have problems.
Take my leg. You ain't gonna give me that shit.
Yeah, so I made that very
That's
clear.
what I first thought of when I heard it. Yeah, that's crazy.
Did not think that. So
And at the time, that's changed a lot. They don't give out narcotics as much in emergency rooms because of all the chopping and obviously everything that's
right.
happened with the opioid epidemic. But at that time, I mean, they were handing them out like candy.
I was on naltrexone. Naltrexone, am I saying that right?
Yep.
And when I got out of rehab, I took it for about 6 months after, and then I wanted to do it without it. It's supposed to help cure cravings. I guess it did. They gave it to me in rehab. And my mom's a nurse, and she was like, if something happens to you, it's going to counteract probably if you need a pain pill. I'm like, well, I don't want a pain pill, but because I've met so many people that it's wrecked their fucking lives.
yeah.
Did you take one?
No,
Thank God.
But I stopped taking the naltrexone. But to this day, like you said, I won't fucking take NyQuil. Because I don't want. I go to Jeff and I go to the same church. We have a grape juice communion line and then a wine communion line, and I go. You can tell who the fucking recovering
yourself
alcoholics are. at
some
our
grape
church.
juice.
It's me and the 6-year-old kids. And then a couple other brethren that do the grape juice line. But I'm dogmatic about that shit. I'm so afraid that I'm confident but not cocky, right?
Yeah.
In my sobriety, I'm able to bartend. I just did that a couple times, but like you said, you would have fucking knocked somebody out if they would have tried to give you.
Well, I mean, I love that part about myself. I love I'm with my boys from college all the time, or I'll be with people, and they always you don't care. They know now. Like I'm like, go, drink up, buy the bottles, go to the VIP, whatever you want to do.
Right.
And it doesn't bother me at all. Like I know that I am who I am today because I don't do that. And there'll still be times where I think to myself, I'm like, I could have a drink. And I know I could have a drink today and nothing would happen. I could maybe have a drink tomorrow, nothing would happen. But at some point, like a year and a half down the road, I'm going to end up looking in that mirror and saying, what the hell just happened? How did I get here again? And everything that I've created in my life today, all the amazing things that I'm grateful for have happened because I don't, drink and I don't use drugs. So how sick am I to even have that thought to go back and say, you know what, I want some liquid to go down my throat and I want to feel good on the inside. Like, why do I need that? Why would I even want that? But that's my mind, I still have to go back to that. That's why this is something that you have to work on, constantly and keep yourself in check because it's easy to start kind of veering off that path and going in a different direction.
Yeah, and we talked about this on one of the previous episodes on taking back control of your life. It's something to fucking get off on, man. It's so liberating. And somebody talked about this even at church about hope. What's so powerful about hope is that nobody can take it from you. I also say that about sobriety, that's my fucking shit, and nobody's going to take it from me. I can get rid of it. I can lose. Same thing with hope. I can say, fuck hope. I'm done. I'm done being hopeful that heaven's out there, that it conquers death, that it conquers all bad shit.
Right.
I can fucking get rid of the hope, but nobody can come take that from me. And that's the same thing with my sobriety. That is powerful, man.
Oh yeah.
God, I'm fucking goosebumped out right now.
There's good addictions and there's bad addictions, And I tell you what, people with an addictive nature are some of the most successful people that you will ever meet in your life because they're balls to the wall. They're 100% in or out. That's why, it's a blessing and a curse, right? Sure. If I do something, I'm doing it to the max, or I'm not doing it at all. I'm not half-assing it. You just have to make sure that that's in the right direction, right? That's helping people because it can go bad real quick.
Yeah.
But it's empowering. Like my sobriety, that's what I got addicted to, was my sobriety. It was to bettering myself, this journey of self-exploration, to see what you can conquer, to see how far you can push your body and your mind past all those points of physical exhaustion, places that you never thought you could go. But just a little bit further, and pushing that envelope, whether that was in the gym trying to throw up as much weight as possible or just work out and push myself, my physical body past that, or helping others, business, whatever that is, on things that other people have told me maybe I couldn't do. Right. And that was a big thing that fueled me at the beginning. So many people did call me a junkie, or I can remember in grade school being called that delinquent. And they had good reason, I was a problem child.
My mom was fucking number one on speed dial, too.
I was a problem,
Sure.
But all that pain, right? All those times, all those people that told me I was never going to make it or never do something, that fueled me at the beginning to where I'm like, I'm going to and I learned quickly after that's, my ego, and I have to look on the inside. But
football player, he said. I remember. Competitive.
Yep.
Nick knocked a couple kids out of it. I remember that. But anyway,
those were good days.
So you sold your company in Florida, and then what now? Because I want to lead into, you posted something on Facebook and social media from Discovery, and I want you to talk about that because you listed a number, and it was a number of people that have. Was that for just the New Jersey
Yeah, that was just New Jersey. So
let's talk about New Jersey for a little bit.
New Jersey. So Discovery Institute is a nonprofit addiction treatment center. It's been around for about 50 years. They had a lot of state contracts at the time in New Jersey. I mean, they were literally paying this place $60 a day, to treat. I mean, show me a hotel you can get for $60 a day, much less treat somebody, house them, right. Feed them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So they were having issues, and being this pillar of the community up there, I had an opportunity to step in and to do a turnaround for them. And that's exactly what we've done. We've done almost, aesthetically, we've put almost $1 million in renovation in that. Our clinical program, we've just worked on so much, our medical side of things, and just revamped this entire program. And one of the things we're most proud about is that we have a Medicaid side, so we help people with no insurance, no money. We do have a private program, and we have a drug court program. So we helped in New Jersey this last year, 2019. It was 1,598 people came through our doors, and we're expanding. We're looking to do more than that this year. Which I'm very proud of. I moved my family up there. God bless my wife, for moving up there. She's moved a couple of different places.
She's a baller, right? We grew up together.
She is.
You all kicked your punt coverage, as did Jeff and I.
Another Belleville person?
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
So when I was...
It's a great story. I would love for you to share it.
If you know my wife, we were in first grade together. Her name's Valerie. So we grew up, grade school, high school, we were best friends. Right, but she always had me in friend zone. She always had me stiff armed.
This is called
I was too
persistence.
busy smoking weed and had my long hair to get with that caliber of a girl. So
she was a good girl.
She was.
Yeah.
She was. So she always had me in friend zone. We went to prom together. We were at all homecoming, everything. So we ended up splitting ways. For 10 years. She went out to UGA. I went to Southern Illinois. I did God knows what, and she did her thing. And we were coming up on our 10-year high school reunion. When I would come back for college, and I'd see my grandparents or something, I'd break up with a girlfriend. They're like, "Where's Valerie at?" And I'd say, she's doing her thing. I don't know where she's at. But my grandma would tell this story that when we were in 5th grade, right? We were coming out of one of the basketball games. I was playing basketball. I think Val was a cheerleader at that time. And I came back and I said, "Grandma, did you see that girl in there?" She said, "What girl?" I said, "Valerie, did you see her?" She said, "Yeah, I saw her." I go, "I'm going to marry her one day," in 5th grade. So fast forward to me being broken on the streets of Miami, having fucking nothing, being in these hotel rooms. I used to visualize my life like what I knew it could be. I don't need everything. I want a wife. I want a kid. I want a house. I want, just normal stuff. I don't want to be here. And I would always visualize my life with her. She was that girl that got away from me, always. Mm-hmm. And I would always think about her. I get sober, start these businesses. I'm on this journey of self-exploration. I'm getting better. I'm better in my life. Coming up on our 10-year high school reunion, I touched base with her online. She didn't go, but I went to the reunion. But that's what kicked it off. So I was living in Florida. She was living in Atlanta at the time. And I said, "I'm coming out to see you." So I flew out to Atlanta. We hit it off, man, right? Just like where we left off. So I said, "I've done this long distance thing. I'm not doing it again. So here's what's going to happen.
I love it.
I'm going to fly you down to Florida, and you're going to leave Atlanta. No more of this friend zone shit you pulled in high school. Okay? And she said, okay.
Already?
Okay. So she did. She flew down. We got a place together, and we now have 2 kids, and I actually was starting up a blowout bar with my sister here on Washington Ave in St. Louis, so I was flying back and forth.
You need to explain to our listeners what a blowout bar is.
And me.
People
I don't know what that is.
People are going to go to really bad places.
She has a salon, so she started a salon out there, and it's
you should know. Your wife.
My wife-
it's where they
as soon
do
as you
no
said
cuts,
that.
no color. They just style your hair. They have it
That's the
named,
thing, man.
ironically, after different drinks, like a spritzer, where the
okay.
girls can come in, get dolled up. They do their makeup, stuff like that.
My
So-
first fiance worked at a blowout bar, but it was a different. All right, that was.
That was in Centerville, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, all right.
Centerville.
Yeah, I think her name was what?
All right,
Roxy?
all right. Yeah. So you were starting this studio, this blog.
So I was coming back and forth, right? And I used to tell, since we were in first grade together, we went to Wolf Branch. I'd wake up and I'd be like, Valerie, I just had these dreams. You remember Miss Hudson or these people? And she'd laugh and we'd tell these stories. And I go, why don't you set up a tour of Wolf Branch while we're back? No. I'm not going to. Come on, just.
She was afraid they weren't gonna let you back in.
I eventually convinced her to set up the tour. Well, she didn't know that I had everything set up on the back end the entire time. So we go there. We go on a tour with the principal of our entire old school. We went through our first grade classroom, saw everything, and I ended it in that gymnasium where I said that to my grandma in 5th grade. Actually, I got my old basketball coach that was running that basketball game at the time to come back. They were having basketball practice. So in the middle of basketball practice, they said, welcome to Wolf Branch. They threw the balls down. We had all the balloons. And I had our first grade teacher there out of retirement at center court. And she just lost it. I said, well,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's where I first said that I was going to marry you at. And that's what I came here to do. And
man,
that's our little love story. But the point,
I'm a sucker for this shit.
Yeah.
For this little.
You
I mean,
know,
I like
also
it.
it's like, but that's
100%.
the beautiful thing. Like I had this dream, like, knowing how much I love this girl and getting my life back together and really making that effort to reach back out to her, to rekindle that relationship. And thank God, it worked out. Now we have 2 kids. I have a little 3.5-year-old girl, Baylor, and a little boy, a little terror.
Mini me.
Yeah.
Looks just like you.
Yeah, he is.
So you guys are living in New Jersey, and you're helping these people. You told me when we all had dinner recently, you told me that because you've been very successful in this industry, and a lot of people wonder how that can happen and nonprofit stuff. And you told me a great quote, and it's one that I might hijack and use and help motivate myself, just on anything. But you do well by doing well.
Doing well by doing good.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Say that again for the listeners.
We have a philosophy. It's called doing well by doing good. And that's really, it's Salt Lake too. So it's always been a dream of ours to be able to come back. And some of my partners, I was telling you with Mo Network, to really come back to St. Louis.
Right.
And put together just a phenomenal state-of-the-art treatment center that this area's never seen. There's a lot of state places,
Right.
Listen, we're on a podcast. They're okay. But, something really above and beyond. And that's what we did. We created an absolute all-star team, and we believe in that. We have a lot of, we have a whole culture statement, principles that are a lot off of some of the 12 steps, integrity. These things aren't cheap either. We put
They're
together
not.
this program, and if you're really going to do it right and do it well, then it costs money. And we have several sides to that. We have the nonprofit side, we have the for-profit side, but everything at the end of the day is helping our members first. Members come first. People come first. People over profits. And when you do that, everything else comes. You will be successful. The money will come as long as you're doing that first. Because the greatest form of marketing is word of mouth, right? And success stories. And when people are doing well. So we created a program around here that's a true full continuum of care. We do everything from detox, from anywhere from a 5 to 10 day detoxification process. You're asking me about the benzos, the alcohol, get that out of somebody's system. And then we have our residential program. We have anywhere from 30 to 90 day programs. And then we have the outpatient. And statistics and studies show that the longer you're in treatment, the higher chance of success. So we really challenge people to stay with us for a full year,
Okay. Okay.
with the outpatients.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
to continue
absolutely.
coming back for, as long as possible. Because this is something they say, when you're in it, like I was in it, it's really about changing everything.
Yeah.
That's what they say. They say the only thing you have to change is everything. And it's the truth.
Yeah, that's-
You have to change your lifestyle, people, places, things, everything that you do. You know this, and it's tough, finding how to be sober in a world filled with alcohol and people partying.
Right.
So
and fucking polarized.
in connection, right? Opposite of addiction is connection. Finding that support. We really embrace people that come through our program as, our family, as kind of our members. Somebody that will get recovery for life. We're always going to be there for. We're always going to have alumni events. We're always going to have outpatient and welcome those people back.
I'd had the pleasure to go out to his open house, Jeff, and it's a beautiful facility. He has on-site medical staff, obviously, and ended up. You have a physician, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have a 24/7 medical staff, but one of the things that really makes us different, we have 55 acres out there,
Right.
76 beds, I think, total that we can grow into. I think it's right around 54, 56 right now, but we do. Most treatment centers that you go to, you'll get one primary therapist that'll bring you all the way through that you'll go to. We have a team of people that go around you. So we have somebody that specializes in mental health, somebody that specializes in addiction, peer recovery specialists. We have a spiritual advisor and a wellness director that specifically is there. So actually he came up from Florida. His name's Bodie. I call him the spiritual juggernaut because he's absolutely incredible. About halfway through my sobriety, I, started to hit some rough patches and just, trying to find something else again. It's a way to move forward in my spirituality. So I found a place called Soulville, and he was one of the instructors there. He was actually on the board of all Unity churches. He was actually next in line to take over, if you know Unity. But I went there, did a bunch of work with him, and he actually flew to St. Louis to take this position.
That's why. From Florida to St. Louis.
He will help guide you through your spiritual journey while you're with us. We actually, so right now we're trying to work on putting a sweat lodge in right now. One of my partners, name's Paul, he has a treatment center in Canada, and up north, he has these sweat lodges. They're absolutely incredible, but you have to be very careful with it. There's a lot of tradition. Culturally, you have to get permission from all the Native Americans and the tribes around here. There's a lot that goes into it. Make sure that you're getting the blessing to do that, the proper training, building it the right way.
That shit nobody ever thinks about.
But you take everything from your own land, and
Uh-huh.
you build this lodge that's kind of like a sauna, but 25 people that go in it. And up in Canada, what they do is, I forgot the name of this. They use all these natural medicines. So, for example, I forgot the name, but they call it, it's something for your respiratory they put in the sweat for people that have problems with their lungs and their chest. And they have a huge tub, and they go out and they get sap from an oak tree. But this isn't just any sap. It's only oak trees that have been struck by lightning that they get this sap from. But all these natural medicines that come in that we put into these, these ceremonies, and that's kind of like one of our signature things that we do there. But there's so many.
That's cool.
So many different elements that we do that are cutting edge. Anything evidence-based, we're all over it.
What's the name of the treatment center again, Nick?
Sauna Lake Recovery Center.
And it's out in Dittmer, Missouri, which is, when I was like 30 miles maybe west of like Fenton, if you're familiar with the St. Louis area. It's an incredible facility. There's friends of ours that Nick has helped. Almost a whole fucking football team of them. And it's, so when I said earlier that you can see people's lives being transformed tangibly. Like we see it every day. He sees it every day, and the key is it's shattering the enemy and that facade and that fucking bullshit smokescreen of loneliness. And it when you get through the other to sobriety from XYZ addiction, you become you want to be in this community, and then you want to help people, and it becomes really a family, man. And it's very similar to like church,
Right.
It's very similar to coming to and finding the right place that you help each other, and it's a community, and it fucking shatters loneliness, and I love that.
There's no better feeling to actually see money could never buy something like that. It doesn't matter what you're doing, like helping somebody and seeing somebody come in shambles, especially people that have kids, or that are just that want it. You see them come in so shattered and broken, and then that light goes off in their eyes. They start to get it. They rebuild themselves. They rebuild their lives to come back, to be productive members of society, to be good father, a good mother, a good parent,
Sure.
a good son, sibling. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And we could go. We're gonna have you back soon, because I really want to hit the mental health stuff too.
Yeah.
And it's so key to me, Nick. What your passion and what you drove home here is where the rubber meets the road on addiction and mental health, and I don't and making sure that that's a priority in the treatment. You really peel back the onion, right, and get to, and that is I don't think you can get a sustained sobriety without addressing that in the treatment center, or and then outpatient is so key after you get out. I remember going, at first for me it was to satisfy insurance. Like you had to, the rehab I went to, insurance said you had to go to outpatient twice a week to log so many hours so they'll continue paying. And I get all that. Mm-hmm. But so it started, I'm like, I'm going to go. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, man, this is the shit. I'm meeting people that are struggling the same, telling stories. And a lot of times we don't glorify, but it's good to remember where we came from. And when I was telling some mutual friends that Nick was coming to town, one of them told me to ask you about the golf club story with your best friend and roommate. Will you share that one? I got two stories I want you to share, Nick. To lighten the fucking mood a little bit.
That's one of my best friends, that's out, and we were talking about.
Did you hear this?
Some people have, and it still amazes me to this day. That guy used pills with me, and he's good. He works for a big oil company now. He's, doing well. Never went to the level that I went to.
Sure.
But there was a point to where when my parents were done with me here in St. Louis, like I've wrecked everything around here. He's living in Houston. He got a new job. This is my college roommate. He's like, fly him out here. I'll get him straight. Yeah, all right. So here I am. I grab a couple of Suboxone. I go to Houston. I live with him. And he's trying to be my dad or something, telling me to go get a job and do this and watching my resumes. I'm like, okay, Matt. And, I end up, he got so pissed because that's where I was at. The pain clinics were terrible down in Houston. I mean, literally, they would have these places to where they would hand out cards on the streets. You didn't have to have an MRI or anything. You walked in. You got scripts of pain pills.
Like fucking dick.
You can go to a new one every day. So what did I do? I'd go pawn his golf clubs. And
so wait. You do what? You would pawn his golf clubs?
He's a big golfer, high school, and I'd go and I'd take his golf clubs. I'd go out there. I'd go to the pain clinics after I pawn them. I'd buy the pills and I'd sell them, half of them, to some of my buddies, just enough to get the clubs back.
Okay,
each day. So this was my life. Was doing this each day, supporting my habit, taking his clubs, and by the time he got work back from his Fortune 500, corporate career, his golf clubs were nicely sitting there, in a corner.
He had no idea.
No, until he found me. He was left-handed. So one day he found one of the drivers in the back seat. He's like, why you got my club? I'm like, oh, it's just, swinging it in the backyard. It's like, it's left-handed. I was like, yeah, I'm just practicing my left hand swing. He's like, you're full of shit. I ended up finding some receipts. And that was really the pillar to where he was, he's like, all right, he's got to get out of here. I can't do it. I don't know what to do with him,
That's really creative.
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's why I was saying that, people that have been addicts or people
Right.
that have suffered from substance use disorder, some of the smartest
It's
people.
fucking genius.
And
Yeah.
Now, don't go trying that if you're
Right,
listening.
No,
right.
but there's people out there, and some of the stories that I've heard, if you put half of the energy into recovery that you did out there hustling
no
or
shit.
doing whatever you had to do, you're going to be successful.
Right.
Just half, just a quarter. So
You were in Miami one time. This might be the low point. Can you share this?
Listen, I'll share this story just for you, Chris. I
It's important because this is his low point, right? Was this your bottom? You think?
it was
One of them?
it was right there.
Yeah.
It was a spot with spiritual awakening, and I'm okay with telling this stuff today because all these stories, all this shit that's happened in the past is some of this embarrassing, of course, but this is what's made me who I am today.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing, So I was in Miami at the time. I was telling you that I was going in and out of these hotels.
Right.
So my drug dealer at the time decided that he was going to charge me an extra like $5 or $10 a bag and tax me. So I said,
Inflation.
nah, screw you guys. Because I was spending so much money with this guy. Fuck you. I'm going to go get another connection. So I rolled down to Overtown in Miami, which is like the East St. Louis and North St. Louis here. I mean, it's the worst place that you can go. So I'm riding down. I eat a couple of Xanaxes, which they call them stupid sticks. I'm out of my mind. I barely remember some of it. But what I do remember is rolling down
Good. You
into
don't have any
Overtime,
anxiety.
looking for somebody, looking for my new prospect of a drug dealer. And I go, ski. So come here. Let him in the car. Mistake number one, letting him in the car. I said, here, buddy, here's $30. Go ahead. Go get me some. If you come back and it's good, I'll buy some more. Mistake number two, I let him know I have more money, right? So he comes back, and I was an IV at the user at the time. He gives me a bag, and I do it right there in the car.
Shoot it up.
Shoot it up. What I didn't realize is that it was not heroin, it was cocaine. And it was a huge amount. So all I know is that my bell just rung. I fell out in my car. All of a sudden, I'm just speeding out of my mind. I mean, I could barely talk. I was stuck.
My heart's racing.
And I woke
You're
up,
lucky you
and
didn't
this
have a heart
guy's like,
attack.
man, you're the fucking police, man. You're the police. And he runs out of my car. I'm, what am I gonna, I go to start up my car. My keys are gone. I am out of my mind at this point. So for some reason, I thought the next best move and the thing to do was to get in my trunk until I figured it out. Until I figured this situation
In the
out.
hood.
In the hood. So here I am in my trunk, speeding. Where's my keys? I don't know. All of a sudden I hear, boop, boop. They came back. They hit my unlock button on my car, and he had 3 of his buddies with me. They all get in the car, and they start rolling down the street. I'm in the trunk. I start rolling around in the back of the trunk, and next thing I hear is, this fucking white boy's in the trunk. Pop out. I'm out of my mind at this point. I get pistol whipped in the back of my head. I'm bleeding from my head. They strip me down in the middle of Overtown. I'm in my box just running down the middle of Overtown. Took my car, took my wallet, took everything. I run into a braid shop. Help!
Braid shop.
I'm hiding behind braids. This guy's like, what the fuck are you doing in my shop? So I'm like, call the police. Needless to say, here I am on the corner. The cops show up in my boxers, bleeding from my head, like, what the fuck are you doing, kid? And when I sobered up after that moment, I was like, you know what? My life might be unmanageable. This might be a time for change. And those types of incidents, looking back right now, like they make me laugh. But those, without that pain, without those stories, without going through that, if I just maintained every day, and kind of got by, my addiction probably would have lasted a lot longer. I got to
Or
some
taking your life.
Or taking my life, without a doubt. I'm lucky that I'm not. All this fentanyl that's going around now, I mean, is dropping people like flies. It's insane. And I know that if I was using like I was back in the day, now I'd be dead. No questions asked. And I'm very blessed to be here to work on myself and to be able to help somebody else. Help somebody else through the process.
And in all seriousness, telling that story, when Nick said that you had nothing, you didn't have a pot to fucking piss in, that's what it came to.
Right.
In his fucking boxers, on a corner in the hood in Miami.
What a schmuck.
Yeah. But nobody, the hope is there, and you can overcome it. And man, Man, Nick, this was awesome. First guest, Jeff.
Yeah, first
Told
guest,
you I
man.
wanted to
Thanks
be
for coming.
special.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
And Nick, you went to some dark places today, especially the story you told earlier and about what happened in college and knowing some of the backstory to that. I know personally how much it's eaten you up and driven you at the same time, if that's makes sense. And I think I know the pain that you've gone through for that, and to go there and to share it in the hopes to help other people. I'm just fucking grateful, man, and I'm praying for you every day, and I'm praying for that family every day. As you know, that's brutal stuff, and I know what it did to you, and I know what still drives you today. Mm-hmm. So thanks for going there and being vulnerable with us. I've told people before that when I would, like, the way I did, like, coke and drank, I would love, my favorite times were, and you can ask all the boys this, my favorite times were to, like, after the bar closed, if, asterisk, I wasn't going home with some gal, like, that usually was priority number one if we're going out single in our 20s, right? For me, at least. I look at Jeff, and he's like, yeah, maybe for you, but you know what I mean? If that was a long, you know, and by this time I'm a fat, drunk, slobbering, so it's not happening often, right? So I wanted to go home after the bar with a group of guys, my boys, and do some fucking blow and just bullshit and chat all fucking night. And we would talk about some vulnerable shit, man.
Yeah, you talk about who would win, Mike Tyson or Tiger, right?
We would have the
2-hour conversations on.
We would have
shit
some
like
stupid
that.
conversations for sure. But I loved it because a lot of times I would talk to these guys about shit that they would never talk about unless they were, like, forced to in a room.
Yeah.
Vulnerable shit. So when I got sober, I still love having these conversations, and I think they're important, and there's that stigma that guys can't talk about their feelings shit. I get all that, you know. There's something about that I've learned in my sober, and you learn it in recovery groups. That shit saves lives because a lot of times we're hiding that shit, and we think we're the only ones fucking battling, and it's not. That's a facade. So I love sitting down and sharing these stories and talking about some successes, and that's why the first guest I had, it just had to be you. So
I appreciate that.
And logistically, it was a little bit of a nightmare, but he hopped on a fucking plane from New Jersey and flew here just for this.
Unreal.
And I'm so grateful, and maybe I'll buy you a cup of coffee or something.
Oh, man. Listen, it's just, there's not, some of the work you're doing in this area, it's desperately needed, and I wanted to come out here and hopefully sharing my story helps somebody else, you know, and shows that it's possible. No matter how low you get, no matter where you're at, you can bounce back, you know, but you have to get vulnerable enough to ask for help, you know, or to just open yourself up just a little bit to somebody, to someone, and see where it goes. And I promise you, if you do that, your life will change. And I'm living proof of that. You're living proof of that, you know, and I just thank you for letting me on this show. All the work that you're doing is so commendable. You're doing it in a way that I've never seen anybody do it.
Wow.
And it's a special thing. So appreciate it, guys.
Nick, thanks a lot, and I can't say it any better. So God bless you, man. We're grateful, and I want to have you back soon. I want to hear updates on the Sauna Lake, and I want to keep telling success stories. People that have seen the darkness of this shit and that are finding light again and joy again. Yeah, and it's fucking powerful.
Yeah, and no matter what, like, you guys. If somebody wants to reach out, you can go to saunalake.com, SANALAKE.com, and it doesn't matter, you know, what you have, insurance-wise, money-wise, we're going to help you, and we're going to place you and get you the resources that you need. So,
and I know that for a fact.
If you
help friends of mine,
if you're feeling like, you know, you need to change here, pick up the phone, call.
Absolutely,
it'll be the best move you've ever made. I promise you that.
Yeah. That's it. That's a mic drop right there. Nick, thanks a lot. God bless you. We're going to share Sauna Lake on our social media platforms, And for anybody with questions, you know how to get a hold of us. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Let us pray.
Pondoff's Anonymous is Chris Pondoff and produced by me, Jeff Allen. Our music is Anti-Hero by McCall and Gentle Waters by Wild Wonder. For more information, visit pondoffsanonymous.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram.